A beautiful weekend to you and good morning to you as we have another edition of Politics Today that comes live simultaneously on independent television and radio. My name is Philip Omo-Gupon, the host on today's edition, and today we're going to be looking at the Naira depreciation as we take a reflection on the country's economy, how to tackle the Naira's depreciation and how to boost the economy of the country. And also, we will be looking at the 2023 polls. You agree with me, just less than 100 days to the presidential race, and all is up concerning how to make it violence-free. Conducting violence-free polls is the crux of the discussion again on today's edition of Politics Today. Discussing these vital, sensitive issues as topics with me, starting from my extreme left, I have a political scientist, analyst, Electoral University of Benin, Neville Obahedo. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, viewers at home and listeners.
And next to him is also a political economist, an articulate social media influencer, and he is Ibrahim Momo. Thanks for joining me, Ibrahim.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, distinguished viewers and listeners. You're welcome to the program.
And also with me is a versatile public affairs analyst who is a custodian of the law, a legal practitioner by that, and he is Sunday Daudu. Thanks for joining me, Sunday.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Although today is not Sunday, today is Saturday. All right, well, that's how it's going to be. We've got our seasoned analysts to dissect and analyze. We always dissect and analyze on the show Politics Today. But again, you know how it goes. We expect our co-presenters that will be calling in via the screen, the number that will be displayed on the screen. And we expect that our distinguished viewers and listeners on independent radio will be civil in their presentation. In as much as we know your opinion counts and you are entitled to your opinion, it's also important that we ensure that we present our issues logically and objectively without casting aspersions or raising any sentiments. All right, so I start this with the issue about the Naira depreciation, and it's been on, and just like the International Monetary Fund, we say that Nigeria's currency, the Naira, always depreciates its value by 10.6% annually, starting from 1973 till date. And we remember vividly as at last year, November 2021 precisely, the dollar was exchanged for 535 Naira. And today's dollar, we have it attracting about 770 Naira, and that is quite huge. And how does it affect the economy? Inflation rates skyrocketing, and how do we tackle this? It's been a challenge, and we have a political economist, which I would like to start with. It's been a challenge having this fall of the Naira. At the point you want to physically go and catch it so that it doesn't fall below expectation, but it still continues to fall. Now, what do you make of this development, Ibrahim?
Thank you very much. To say, first of all, that the value, the exchange rate of a country's currency in the first instance is a factor of the confidence in the economy of that country, the level of confidence in the economy of a country. Secondly, it is a measure of the interplay between exports and imports. Usually for countries that have a high export rate as compared with imports, you usually would see the national currency of such a country increasing in value as against the standard USD, the US dollar. It's usually an increase because of a higher level of value of exports as against what is importing. The third thing to note is that the value of a country's currency, also impacts positively or adversely on the purchasing power of its citizenry. In a country like Nigeria, for example, and the major goods, for example, the energy, in terms of gas, in terms of petrol, aviation fuel, you know, and of course even food prices, because in a globalized economy, most countries lack what they call food security. Some of the things they consume are imported. For example, wheat, you know. So it impacts also in the country's food security, because in faraway Russia and Ukraine, for example, there's a kind of war going on. And Ukraine happens to be the world's largest exporter of wheat. And its major destination is Southeast Asia and Africa. And so just because there's a war between Russia and Ukraine, the value of wheat, which is a key ingredient producing things like bread, and other, you know, what do you call them now? FCMGs. They tend to rise in price. Of course, you can see the value of bread in Nigeria. So the point I've made, therefore, is that the value of a country's currency has far-reaching implications, writ large. That's the first thing. Second point to note about Nigeria, in particular case of Nigeria, is that if you look at some of these issues I've highlighted, Nigeria is on the negative ends of all of them. Whether it is the level of balance of trade, in imports versus exports, Nigeria there's a huge deficit. Nigeria imports far, far more than it exports.
It's an import-dependent country.
It is, and then a lot of all these things a lot of the things that we import are ostentatious goods that are not basic needs. For example, the value of phones, GSM phones that Nigeria imported in the year 2021 was worth over $1 billion. Just phones. These are ostentatious goods. But Nigeria spends, so you are, if an economy that uses over $1 billion in phones annually in a year, how come we don't have phone manufacturing companies in that kind of country? And then Nigeria is also importing. Nigeria is also importing largely the key import item is refined petroleum products. That's the key import item. What Nigeria spends is foreign exchange earning is petrol, kerosene, diesel, aviation fuel, and even sometimes gas. So this is something that Nigeria as a country already has in abundance.
And the country subsidizes this.
And then not only are you losing out from what we call the multiplier effect, if in the entire value chain, Nigeria not only extracts crude oil, but it also refines it locally. It will create jobs. In fact, the end product, the byproducts of crude oil is about between 18 and 23 different products. Nigeria exports crude oil at minimal value. When you export raw materials, you say raw materials are far, far cheaper than finished products. And then you export raw material, the crude oil, and you import very large sums. The last time they said it's about 67 to 70 million liters per day. Wow. That's the level of consumption of only petrol. You want to ask the question, why is it that Nigeria does not refine its crude oil locally? So,
okay, but do you trust the statistics of that figure? Because most times people want to show some concern about figures the way they are being projected or thrown at the people of the country. And do you trust the transparency of that figure?
The reality is that Nigeria's petroleum products pricing is the cheapest in the entire West Africa. So it will not be that Nigeria is locally consuming 67 to 70 million liters, but the fact that some of our businessmen, or even their compradors, some of the allies in government, are not only do they, when we import this thing and we subsidize it, they are exporting things
outside the country
to neighboring countries, Benin, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Togo, Ghana. As far as Cote d'Ivoire, Nigerian products that are imported to Nigeria find their way into these countries.
And because it's cheaper. This accumulates to the subsidized amount.
Yes. And then because we are importing so much, it's affecting our currency, the value of our currency. Okay. And then the last point I just to make is that one of the reasons why Nigeria's currency is the way it is the fact that Nigerians do not have confidence in the Naira. The concept of bureau de change is not new to Nigeria. It's not unique to Nigeria. In the UK, you have bureau de change. I think there are about 100 bureau de change. In Dubai, UAE, you have bureau de change. I think last can say it's about 165 bureau de change in the UAE. In Nigeria, you have over 6,000. And the reason why you have the Bureau of Exchange, ideally, is that those tourists who come to your country can easily access foreign exchange. But in Nigeria, it is Nigerians that are patronizing the Bureau of Exchange.
So
you see what? At the end of the day, it shows even Nigerians don't even have confidence in the Naira.
Okay.
That is what they are saying.
Okay. Let's test the scientific approach to this as a political scientist, Neville. Now, we have every government or administration trying to set out an agenda on how to tackle the problems that seem to be there for the country, and most especially as it pertains to the economy. I remember vividly where the president also came up with the shutting down of the borders in order to encourage indigenous production. Now, some cried over that. There were a huge cry over that attempt by the president to do that. But in spite of it, we still have the local production like rice, for instance, still skyrocketing alongside that of the foreign. Now, what do you make of this in terms of policies of government under President Muhammadu Buhari in tackling this?
The point of departure in assessing the depreciation of the Naira, Nigerian Naira, and the economic policies of President Muhammadu Buhari is the capitalist system of the world. Because everything that Ibrahim said just now, they boil down to the subject matter of an ingrained global capitalist system, where in Nigeria, those who pilot the affairs of Nigeria, they are part of the capitalist class. Whether they are in government, which is the governing class, as distinct from the ruling class from the metropolis, then whether they are in the academics, whether they are in the traditional sector, they constitute, because you use the term comprador, they are the bourgeoisie of the society that control the state. If you go to Ghana, where they are exporting our product to, if you go to La Côte d'Ivoire, other places, you will see this bourgeoisie. They have a global network of connecting themselves. And so when we are talking about depreciation of the Naira, which I simply refer to as domestic currency displacement, it is as a result of the effect of the global capitalist system.
Okay.
And leaders of nation state who have knowledge, or who have those who think for them, that want to rescue their political system or their nation state from the shackles of capitalism that their system have been manacled with. They have to bring experts, people with ideas, through research and development, to say we are going to delink systematically from this global capitalist system, so that we can put a machinery in place to rescue our own economy.
At the detriment of other economies?
Not at the detriment of other economies. There's what we call
national interest.
There's what we call national interest,
of
defense
course,
system.
Of course.
And those other countries where you are exporting your crude oil to go and refine and bring here, that is also part of their own national interest. For you to bring your product to that side, process it, and export it at a cheaper rate. When you are bringing it back to your country, it will be more expensive for you. Now, this is a global capitalist system that any country that do not want to have domestic currency displacement as we are having concerning the Naira just now, we have to look inward.
Okay, but isn't it the responsibility of the government of the country of Nigeria to find a way to rejig it in a way that its Naira shouldn't depreciate?
Yeah, that's what we are talking about. Number one, what is the recruitment process of getting people into positions of government? The recruitment process. You did see that the political, the other day they were saying that there should be no consensus and they have to do primaries and the rest of it. I know that my brother was one of those that said that we are not to define for political parties that they are going to their mode of throwing up their candidate, that they should whether have consensus or whatever. I remember we discussed something like that.
Okay.
That word consensus is a word that is smuggled into the primaries of inside the constitution of various political parties because of their own interest of throwing up their own candidate, of their members of their caucus to become the representative of the political party. If you know that you are a good leader, if you know that the candidate you are marketing is good, let them go to the field. Don't go and say it's going to be consensus. What am I trying to say? The way we recruit our people is determines the kind of economy we are going to have, determine the kind of level of development of our policies.
Okay.
So
As in basing it on meritocracy.
Yes,
and not
I will give you an instance. The capitalist system is so ingrained into the world system. I will give you an instance. A scholar, a professor of economics, political economy, by name Eric Fernando Cardoso, he later became the president of Brazil.
Wow.
When he became president, before he became president, he was condemning IMF, World Bank, and their policies and their intervention in the economies of Brazil and the Latin America and the Caribbean countries.
As stagnating growth.
Yes, but when he became president, he was the one who was now advocating for IMF and World Bank intervention in his economy. Because
he has seen it closely.
When he got there, he now discovered that despite his revolutionary zeal, he could not do anything substantial.
Wow.
To change, to delink his economy from that of the global economy. And so he surrendered, tactically he surrendered. But I expected him to have taken a cue from the likes of the Southeast Asian tigers and what we call the Southeast Asian dragons, like Hong Kong,
Malaysia,
like Malaysia, like Singapore, like Thailand, like Taiwan, like South Korea, who looked inward. And when they saw the way the economy of the world was going, if we allow our economy to be import dependent,
yes, of course.
If we allow corruption to continue, if we are not controlling our fiscal and monetary policies, if we are not educating our people so that they will know what it means to provide leadership and to get people into leadership position, our economy will continue to be tied to the industry of the global north, and our people will continue to suffer and our currency will continue to depreciate.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is that the wherewithal of the people that are in
what I'm trying to say
will go a long way to reposition the economy.
What I'm trying to say is this. Number one, our politicians, they are mounting pressure on the dollar.
Okay.
Which Nigeria government is not the one producing it. Our manufacturers, they are mounting pressure on the dollar. Our importers and exporters, they are mounting pressure on the dollars. Even politicians, when they are doing their primary, you see, it's dollars they exchange. They don't give Naira, it's dollars they give. And they go and exchange. And so you see, a lot of Naira pursue fewer dollars. What do you expect? And all of them want to go to America, they want to go to Britain, they want to go to that part of the weather, their children want to go to school, they want to go on holidays, they want to import, they want to export. So you see now, it is a system. They are only subscribing, they are only bound to the rules and caprices of the capitalist system without looking inward and without putting a machinery in place to get Nigeria educated from these issues that surround the management of our economy. So when you are talking about depreciation of the Naira as it affects the common man, those who are responsible, they lack the idea.
The wherewithal.
Yes, they lack the idea of building the state and getting the state educated from the economic shackles.
Okay, as this inflation builds, as this depreciation continues, there seems to be of no significance the increment on the minimum wage by the federal government, and the pressure now is telling on workers of the government, not only workers, those who are also in the private sector, not only that, the market women, the entire population of the country. They seem to be engulfed in this inflation, whereby they are asking for a way out. Now, let's particularize that of the workers. Do you see them having a local standard under the labor unions to demand for an increase in wages, looking at this situation that we are into?
Very well, very well. But let me have another dog to the arguments, which I do not depart from. But I want to have another dog. There are three major factors I consider to be the major reasons for the continued depreciation of Nigerian Naira.
Okay.
3. 1, production.
Wow. A lawyer telling me this?
Yes. We are not a producing country.
Okay.
So we depend on what is produced outside to meet our local demands. 2, the denomination of the Naira. In advanced countries, we have 1,000 Naira. You have $1,000 in America. You don't have the denominator.
Okay.
Because you have weakened the strength and the value of the Naira. By saying we have 1,000 Naira, you have $1,000 in UK, US, and all of that pounds. No. Because you have weakened the naira when you continue to produce. Some people are saying that they will produce 5,000 naira.
It's quite brilliant you are saying this as a lawyer, but I'm going to test this from what the political economists will say in this regard.
The third factor
Okay.
is the bureaucracy in getting the exchange of naira to either dollar or pounds or euro, as the case may be. Those are three factors inhibiting and depreciating the naira. Now let me take you to production. You see, when a country produces virtually what it needs to feed the people, to cater for the needs of the people, you have less interest in pursuing the dollars or the pounds or the euro and all of that. You have less interest in it because whatever you need to cater
whatever
for
you consume, you produce.
You produce it. So why are you looking at?
Unfortunately, that's not the state of things in Nigeria.
So Nigeria does not produce.
But the president made efforts to tackle that. But there was much cry over the shutting of the borders. Could this be the spiral effect of what the president later did by opening the borders?
No. You see, before you take a decision, there must be a policy trust, a policy document that have been subjected to evaluation and interrogation that gives birth to a decision that the government takes. You don't abruptly, economic development, economic planning, economic growth, you do not just abruptly take a decision. That will be inconsistent decision that has not been subjected to test.
Okay, let's go to the labor unions. And
I'll go to labor unions.
Yes, if they have the legality in that regard.
You see, having considered that the naira has depreciated, and a person who is working, whose salary, for instance, in 2005 was 100,000, where a bag of rice was about 2,500. The salary is still at that level, no increment by government, and a bag of rice is about 50,000. Ordinarily, if it's a proactive,
that's the foreign bag of rice, the foreign rice.
The native is 37,000.
Yeah.
The native.
And we wonder why this is so high, being that we produce it locally.
It's 37,000, sir. I go to the market. It's 37,000. Now the question is that a man whose salary has been stagnated for over 10 years, and inflation is biting hard on him, and the meager salary is earning, you are saying he has no right to demand for a salary review. That will be tantamount to forced labor.
But isn't there usually a period of time at which that can be done?
Of course, it's there.
Not necessarily at every year.
Of course, it's there.
Okay, so
salary review
yes.
of workers' minimum wage is contained both in the collective agreement and both in the Labour Act. But government being who they are, they will subject the lecturers or whoever worker now, general workers, to this hardship. When they come begging, maybe for instance, if you look at what happened the last 8 days.
Yes, you mean 8 months?
8 months.
Oh yeah, over ASU strike.
Over ASU strike. The strike that was occasioned by the failure of government, as I mentioned in my earlier discussion here, was not a strike in itself, was to enforce a collective agreement. It was not a strike. That is what the Labour Act says. That's what the Trade Dispute Act says. It was a means of enforcing, because that's the only means that workers have to enforce. It was not a strike. It's to enforce, but the government said they are enforcing no work, no pay. The question I've asked, which government has not responded.
Sorry to cut in. Why will you say it was not a strike?
It is not a strike
when they exited classrooms.
It's not a strike.
Isn't that a strike? How do you define a strike?
I will tell you a strike.
Although that's a way of digressing, yes. Anyways, I will allow you to digress in just 2 seconds.
We are not going to digress too much. What I'm saying in essence is that there is an agreement. Both parties, 2 parties make an agreement. You suspend your 2020 strike. Had an agreement. I will start implementation by January 1st, 2021. That was the agreement by both parties. One party obeyed, suspended the strike, and resumed classes. Now you enforce your own from January 2021. They drag it from 2021 to February 2022. And those who now gave a notice of 1 month, please, this agreement is dragging too long. Please enforce it. Implement this agreement. And the man says, look, you will say, okay, let us not go on strike. Let us give them additional 2 months. You continue to linger it on before the finally declare strike action against you. The same people come back and said, there's no work. Now, if you also go to, you see, people who are not versed in labor administration and labor law, a worker who enjoys statutory flavor, you cannot pay him prorately. You cannot be prorately paid because he enjoys statutory flavor because his employment is not determined by strike. The mere fact that a man goes on strike is not that his employment has been determined. And as such, wherever he starts, you start his employment from there. That is what the government is accepted to do. When electorals resume, they say the number of days they work, such they will be paid. It therefore means that if a person is sick now, the days he doesn't come to work, government will subtract the money.
Okay.
And they were paid, according to government, prorately. That the day they suspend the strike, that is why their government continue. Whereas they did not also issue fresh appointments.
Okay, but should strike always be the last resort?
It's the last resort, sir. Because the thing is that
whenever it comes to issues like this, because we are having this inflation rate skyrocketing, and we don't know what the NLC or what other unions are working towards. Should it always be the last resort?
If you see resolution 67 and 59 of the International Labour Organization, recognize collective agreement between government and workers, or between employers and employees. Now, once that agreement has been reached by both parties, even if the government or the employer honors it in the breach, the only way the employees can enforce that collective agreement is by strike action.
Okay.
So if indeed that wise a strike is called, then the same person who ignited when you are enforcing is called enforcement of right. That strike, that's why it's not a strike. People don't know the meaning. The meaning is enforcement of trade dispute collective agreements right under the collective agreement. So if you are enforcing the right inuring in your favor, it doesn't. You can't be said to be on strike. And the government, having not holistically looked at this, or if they were ill-advised, decided to say, look, we are not going to pay. But I think that is taking the joke too far. If they do that, I think they are weakening the economy. Okay. And the economic sector of the country. Okay. They all benefit because their children really, they are not in the country.
Okay.
So they just okay if these lecturers now also proceed to another strike. They don't bother about that.
And we just hope that other unions won't join or won't come up in terms of this inflation rate, and the price of fuel is skyrocketing. We don't know what's going to happen in January or what could be happening soon. But
the truth is that a professor, the highest paid professor in Nigeria, who is not owing anybody, is 414,000. That is a professor of 20 years and above. Those who are at the bar professor, who is not owing a bank or is not owing anybody. His salary take home is about 400, not about, I'm very categorical, it's about 414,000. Now a bag of rice, for instance, what is the fuel now? If you buy 2 liters of fuel, it cannot take you to your workplace, which amount almost 500 naira. Or if you just pay maybe 1,000 or so, it's about 4 liters, 250. So how many liters of fuel, for instance, will you buy as a worker to go through and through your work? Where, of course, disappointingly also, that in the university system, they do not have housing for about 95% of their workers.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Now, let's look at the aspect he raised about the denomination. Does the denomination of a country's currency determine the inflation rate?
Well, it's an indicator. If not necessarily the denomination, but the fall in the exchange rate of a country's currency had an impact on inflation without mincing words. Well, before I go on, I just want to really chip in. So the question you actually asked him was about the demand for salary increase.
Yes.
Vis-a-vis the
how legitimate that is.
Vis-a-vis the fact that there is inflationary trends on public goods or common goods. And the reality is that there are double-edged swords. The increase in money flow, which can be occasioned by an increase in salary, leads ultimately to inflation. So government is not doing workers a favor when they are not curbing inflation. So workers now, the reason why workers in fact even agitate for salary increases is that those salaries
Okay.
So he called the salary of a professor at bar 414,000. For the layman, that is big money. But if you put it in the context of if you dollarize it, because everybody in Nigeria now wants to have the monetary account. Even the truck pusher wants to have everybody wants to have the monetary account. We don't believe in Naira. But the thing that is a better store of value than assets, other assets. If you convert 470,000, it's just about $1,000 at the rate of about 800. About $1,000.
It's pathetic.
Yes.
Whereas a professor in South Africa can earn far more than in the region of $2,500 to $5,000 a month. A Nigerian professor, a lecturer.
Okay, but what's the way out of this? How do we redesign our fiscal policies?
That was the point I was making. I tried to bring out the whole issue at once. That the key thing that government needs to do has to have very pragmatic fiscal and monetary policies in place. Because
otherwise, we don't have that just now.
Because we don't. Of course, they have tried several things, and with all due respect, I know a couple of very wonderful people who are members of the Monetary Policy Committee of the CBN, both those who are deputy governors, the governor itself, and and what do you call it now? Other non-deputy directors of. What you can see for certain, what you can take for free is that the monetary policy capability, the fiscal policy management of our economy has proven to have failed, because the instruments they have tried, the policies they have implemented, have all failed to achieve the desired result. And so what you are seeing at one level is inflation, at another level it is the fall of the value of the country's of our currency, the naira, as against the dollar or the UK pound. But interestingly, in all of these things, if you watch clearly, the Nigerian naira is still doing better than the Japanese yen. The Nigerian naira is still doing better than the Portuguese lira. But the only thing we are doing wrongly is that we are not producing what we are consuming. In fact, the things we have, crude oil, for example, we are importing the finished product. We're not refining locally.
Okay.
But the things that we don't even need, ostentatious goods.
Okay.
I think
before we go to the next discussion, the next topic, let's look at your feedback on this in terms of how we can get it right, or what the government should do in 1 minute.
As I've always said, that those who fail to learn from history, they are condemned to repeating history. This our world, this global world, this capitalist world, is divided into three. Number one, the core countries. Number two, the semi-periphery countries. And number three, the periphery countries. We belong to the periphery, part of the global south.
Oh, the periphery.
The less developed countries.
Yes.
That's the lowest.
Yes. Now, there were some countries that left the periphery to the semi-periphery.
Okay.
I mentioned them earlier. Countries like Taiwan, like Thailand,
Malaysia, Indonesia,
Malaysia, Singapore,
South Korea,
Hong Kong, and so on.
But we can equally do what they did.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said those who fail to learn from history, they have a history and they are still developing. Nigeria should, there's what we call research and development. After Japan was destroyed through the kamikaze of the Second World War, Japan came out from the ruins through research and development to steal technology from other parts of the world. And Japan emerged as the most technologically advanced nation state in this world after the Second World War and the devastation of Japan. Now, Nigeria can learn from Japan. Nigeria can learn from Singapore, from Malaysia, from Taiwan, and all those other countries. For instance, the rice they bring to Nigeria, some of the rice they bring from Singapore, so they bring from Thailand, so they bring from Malaysia. We have fertile land from here to other parts of the country. Where is the rice farm? In our own state here. Here we have Ministry of Agri. Where is the federal land for producing rice in Nigeria? Yes, we have Federal Ministry of Agri. And so Nigeria should look at these countries. But we have ambassadors to these countries. Our people are there schooling there. We can steal their technology through a means of espionage and other means, and through bilateral cooperation to get Nigeria's economy on the sound footing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nabila Bakedo, for taking our time to be part of this. And thank you, Ibrahim Oman, of course, Sunday Daudu. But let's get your reaction in the way forward in terms of the government looking at what we have in our hands in 1 minute.
Well, I think the first is to de-emphasize importation of goods so that we can produce locally, virtually, or at least a reasonable percent of what we consume.
Okay.
Let us not be a consuming nation. We should try and develop our economy by production. That's
Okay.
one. Secondly, I am of the view that the bureaucracy in the getting the exchange rates from banks should be, of course, be controlled, so that people will not continue to patronize what we call the black market. That is
Okay, the parallel market, yeah.
The parallel market where the exchange is thing exorbitantly. I am also of the view, maybe wrongly anyway, that the 500 naira notes and 1,000 naira notes will be withdrawn from circulation.
Wow.
Because that is what breeds corruption. People can steal as many of that and put them in their pocket. I doubt if it is 100 naira notes, how many of that you can steal.
Well, like you said, you may be wrong anyways.
Yes, I may be wrong, but I am of that view.
All right, thank you. In case you're just watching us, it's Politics Today and comes live simultaneously on independent television and radio. And I've been having wonderful gentlemen who articulate at their different capacities. And I must say that we're taking this to another level where we'll look at the aspect of the 2023 election, which is coming less than 100 days from now. But we expect you to pour your calls at us at this moment, and the number will be displayed on the screen. And for our listeners on independent radio, as soon as we visualize that, we verbalize that for you to quickly articulate and call in. My name is Philip Omoro Gupon. I still remain the host on today's edition. All right, so let's look at the aspect of the 2023 election. I choose to start with you, Daudu. Let's see. Recently, the IGP, I held a meeting with political parties and stakeholders concerning how to get it right in terms of ensuring that the 2023 polls is free from violence. And he made it clear that some governors are having political intolerance, and by that heightens the aspect of violence in our electoral process. Now, we have the electoral laws, we have the Electoral Act, and brilliantly as that, some have said that this is a welcome development, as we have this Electoral Act that we deal decisively with anything that has to do with things that, or practices that are against the good conscience of democracy or the electoral process. Now, how do we put this to effective use?
Well, thank you very much. One of the key factors of free and fair election is a violence-free election. If you must talk about free and fair election or credible election, it must be violence-free. And the indices of measuring whether elections will be violence-free is from the campaigns. And unfortunately, as we have earlier posited, some governors are intolerant. We have heard about 2 or 3.
It's the IGP that posited that, if I must use your word.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Whatever it is, it's a public domain.
Oh, yes.
It's a public domain. Unfortunately, sir, that public utilities for people to access, because it is not government that will determine who people will vote for. It is the people that will determine who they vote for. For governors to deprive other citizens of the country of accessing government utilities billed by taxpayers' money.
Exactly, the point.
Is a way of fueling political tolerance.
But doesn't the Electoral Act frown at this? And
of course.
How can this be protected, or the parties or the candidates in question?
You see, government, more often than not, observe the provisions of every law in the breach, in the erroneous belief that they enjoy immunity.
Okay.
That their actions will not be questioned. And even though the actions will be questioned, those who will question their actions have already been part of the government. And as such, they greatly offends the provisions of the Electoral Act. Now, when you have already been fueling ever of intolerance during campaigns, somebody wants to campaign, let him campaign. It is left for the citizens and the masses to decide who they vote for. It's not the people, it's not the person who campaign most. There are some people who have already made up their mind. Whether or not you come to their states to campaign, they've already made up their mind that they're going to vote for you. They've made up their mind. So when governors, I hear governors say, we are preventing them from using our stadium or any public facility in my state. I think we must grow in our political maturity.
Although some also give reasons, but we don't know how cogent the reasons that they give are. But let's
let me also, because I said these are issues in public domain. There's a governor in the South that said the reason why he prevented people from using a public facility was the public facility was under renovation. And a fortnight, the same person used it. So we shouldn't go give excuses. The excuses
there could be a reason why the same governor used it. Maybe to test the capacity of work that has been done in that regard.
The same governor that I'm saying now also told the people that some people called them that they were coming to their state, that he didn't ask what they were coming to do. So the question that the person, the interviewer didn't ask, assuming the people were coming to destroy your state and you are the chief security officer and they told you they were coming, you didn't find out why are you coming to my state. So when they have destroyed, you now say, oh, although they told me they were coming, I didn't know they were coming for destruction. So that's a statement we shouldn't make it the public.
All right, we expect that the number will be displayed on the screen. Please, whoever is responsible, do that quickly. And as we get the number, we visualize that. Please, we need to be on this quickly. So let me
conclude.
Okay.
Now to the elections. Elections are not do or die affairs. People should go there quietly and vote. The security agencies should be on ground and ensure that about 10 meters to the voting area should be cordoned off. Only those who want to vote will enter.
Okay.
Having been, of course, say that they are only with their PVC and nothing more.
Okay, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Let's also look at, because even before voting, we have issue of the campaign grounds, the campaign rallies, that if it's violence prone, it's neither safe for the political candidates or their cronies or their members. Neither is it safe for the masses, the people, the electorate. Now, don't you see INEC as needed to take decisive actions, because we have the Electoral Act alive now, Ibrahim? Don't you see INEC as should be up and doing in this? Do you see them doing that, or when are they going to wake up from this?
Well, the first thing is that it is not for lack of laws that we have the menace or the infractions in society. Nigeria is a country of laws, and every year, every month, every now and then, new laws, new acts have been added to the body of laws of the country. And so it is not for want of law that we have this incidence of infractions, so to say. It is the lack of implementation. One thing to note is in the first instance is the fact that INEC is doing too much already. INEC is the one, as our viewers and listeners already know, are the ones who are involved in registering voters. INEC currently is opening the portal for voter verification so that they can verify the voters, your details. INEC is in charge of verifying, of registering and verifying voters. Secondly, INEC is the one that does voter education, because ideally that should have been a duty that should have been shared not just by INEC, but political parties. Primarily should be led by political parties, political socialization, awareness, and then of course civil society organizations. INEC is also involved critically in conducting elections. It provides the platform for the election of leaders in at least 5 levels of elections. Recently, I'm told that the House of Assemblies and the Senate and National Assembly have now voted to add 2 more to it. Okay. INEC is the one in charge of electing presidents, the election of presidents, senators, House of Rep members, the governors, and House of Assembly members. There are 5 different elections.
All right, quickly, you still have the floor. Before we expect you to call in on the number 0708 365 1320. 0708 365 1320 for our listeners on independent radio. Viewers, you can see that on the screen, so quickly pour your calls at us. You still have the floor.
So again, apart from conducting elections, INEC is also in charge, of, it's now supposedly saddled with the responsibility of now prosecuting election offenders. Where does INEC have one body? Where does INEC now have in the US, for example? What you have are states are the managers of elections in their states. You have secretaries of states as head of state electoral electoral bodies in the US. In Nigeria, it is one central, it's one unitary body, independent national. I know they are not complaining, but the reality is that when you have so much responsibilities,
Okay.
you are definitely going to fail it. So
Okay.
I think that what has been proposed.
All right, we have a caller. Hello, good morning, caller. Tell us your name and where you're calling from quickly.
Okay, Mr. James is the name.
Mr. James.
Yeah.
All right, you're calling from
I'm calling from. Mr. James is the name. I'm calling from Upper Sudoku.
Okay, go ahead quickly with your contribution.
Okay, first and foremost, on the economic policies of Nigeria, no matter the economic policy we decide to adopt, as long as corruption, the men who are saddled with the responsibility of carrying the policies are corruption driven, it will not work. No matter the model we are going to define today of all the economic policies or philosophies of other nations, as long as the people that are in charge, they are corrupt driven and they are selfish motivated, it will not work. That's for that one. So we should first of all look inward and put the right people at the right places.
Okay.
Now, concerning the political thing, I want to comment on that governor of the South who said that he was not aware that the governor was coming to his state. I think the governor should know that they are not talking to children. How would the governor tell you that he's coming? Say you are not aware whether the governor, the purpose why he was coming. Please, let's play this game fair so that the people that are watching will know that these people they are sincere. By that a state governor who's supposed to be the number one chief security is not lying on air just for a disguise to score a political point. I think it will not go well.
Thank you, Mr. James.
That's just my contribution.
Thank you for your articulation on that. Okay, the number is still 0708-365-1320. Okay, let's take your
Okay, well, just so, the point I'm making therefore is the fact that I think it's already bogged down with me, and now you're now adding more to it. You're now adding local government chairman and councillorship elections to the 5 elections that they have to conduct. And now you are expecting them to also be the one to prosecute electoral offenders. And you know the average Nigerian politician's mentality is a do or die mentality. We still have it on YouTube. A former Nigerian president was saying that the 2015 election was going to be a do or die affair. That's the number one citizen of the country. The mentality dovetails to what you are seeing in states. Yeah. You are seeing petty dictators, in states too, not writ large across the country, who are doing one thing or the other to undermine or to close the public space, the electoral space.
Okay, thank you. Let's get your point on that, because most times the youths are used in this whole of political authority and all that. Now, how should this narrative be changed as regards the youths?
First and foremost, Nigeria is said to be practicing democracy. And I've repeatedly said that Nigeria is practicing civilian rule as distinct from democracy. Because there are basic tenets of democracy that the principal actors, including the impartial umpire, supposed to abide by to make the process to be credible and to be seen to be fair. In the first instance, the electoral system of any nation, including Nigeria, is guided by rules. As a matter of fact, the rule making, the rule application, and the rule adjudication, they are encapsulated in that document they call the Electoral Act 2022 in this very instance. And that act is derived from the Constitution, and no man, starting from the president through the governor to the last citizen, no man is expected to disregard the provisions of the act and the Constitution.
So what should I do in punishing offenders? Let's quickly take this call. You still have the floor, David. Good morning, caller. Tell us your name and where you're coming from.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My opinion is
that
this election is for the youth.
Can we have your name? Please,
it's no longer,
our caller, give us a name.
It's no longer for the governor
Okay, please, I'm sorry, we can't take your call if we don't know you by name or have your name here. So please, as you call us, it's quite civil. You tell us your name and where you're calling from so that we know that you are not a ghost or a robot. 0708-365-1320. We've got you. Good morning. Tell us your name, where you're calling from quickly.
Good morning. I'm calling from Benin. Offer to be precise.
The name, please.
I'm calling from Benin. Offer to be precise.
We got that. For your name.
Okay, my name is Osarabo Precious.
Okay, go ahead quickly with your contribution.
What I want to contribute is this, that I made, for what I've seen, they are ready for the election. They are ready for the election because, like, as I said today, they started mobilizing people for registration and election stuff. So I believe that the turn up now is not as before. They are trying.
Okay.
I want to give them kudos.
Okay, thank you.
I want to give them kudos. And secondly, hello.
Go ahead.
And secondly, I want also like to use opportunity to tell electorate voters that they should come out in mass and vote. This time around there is a platform for everybody now.
Okay,
everybody should come out and vote. Let everybody come out. We should not stay corner and be talking.
Thank you, please.
And
Let's
talking
give
from
for others to call in. Thank you. You've articulated a point on that. You still have the floor. Continue with your
Now, the way we talk about violence in the electoral process,
yeah,
and as it relates to 2023, and INEC has been saddled with the responsibility within the provisions of the Act to prosecute those that perpetrate electoral violence. And I've seen INEC national chairman address the press talking about the disturbing nature of electoral violence and the dimensions thereof.
okay.
That is lamentation. He has been given the power to prosecute those who are perpetrators of offenders, who are perpetrators of the offences that are brought within electoral violence in the electoral process. What he's supposed to do is to work with the investigating agencies to ensure that the perpetrators of those acts are prosecuted and brought to book even before the election. That will serve as a deterrent to those who are planning on election day to unleash violence on areas where they know that they are unpopular, okay, so that they can win electoral victory in those places.
All right, thank you. Let's get your reaction over that, because quite often we've seen where the ruling party, the party in power, we seem to want to control the electoral umpire. Now, how should the INEC tackle this, or do you see INEC not having the will to do this?
Well, with the current crop of persons that I know were appointed into the INEC position, either resident electoral commissioners, okay, or national electoral commissioners, I do not see any of them who does not meet the requirement for the appointment.
Okay.
Therefore, they must live above board in view of the fact that the sanctity of the elections rests squarely on their preparations.
Okay, let's quickly take this call.
I'm Dugu, calling from Idubu.
You are what? Hebrew?
Dugu.
Okay, Mr. Dugu.
Yes. I don't want to let you people know that 2023 election is going to be free, fair, and credible. Yeah, thank you.
What makes you say so? No, don't thank me. What makes you say so?
Yeah. The house of God is in the election, and it's going to be free and fair.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you for that. Okay,
thank you.
Now, the persons in government, especially those who are saddled with the responsibility of conducting elections,
yeah,
either as resident electoral commissioners or national electoral commissioner, and the chairman of INEC, I believe they have the ability to conduct themselves of the electoral body. But again, that is also to say that politicians, being who they are, will not attempt to tempt them to sway to their bidding. But what is important is that the 2023 elections is election that will be determined by citizens of this country.
Okay.
And they are ready.
Okay.
That they must change the narrative.
I take that as your closing remarks. Well, I just said that you have a closing remark on that earlier, but let's extend that gesture to you in 1 minute.
Okay, well, on the issue of electoral violence, I think all stakeholders must realize, particularly the electorate, must realize that among the stakeholders, the critical stakeholder is the voter.
Okay.
In fact, though the politicians themselves, they do not perpetrate this political violence, it is their supporters, the electorate, essentially, are the ones who are. So we as a body of electorate must realize, the citizens must realize that we are the critical stakeholders, and we must ensure that we protect the sanctity of the ballots by not using ourselves to use in perpetrating such violence. And of course, when we do that, we also realize that what INEC owes us as citizens is to conduct free, fair, credible elections. And when they do that, whatever is the outcome, we must also accept before, during, and after the election.
All right, thank you. Your closing remarks in 1 minute.
My closing remark is a message to the government of Nigeria concerning minimum wage, because the Constitution made provision that every 5 years, minimum wage should be reviewed. And when inflation is eating up people's salary and they don't have any other means of survival, they are tempted to perpetrate corruption in their offices. My own take on the issue of electoral violence, as I've said, INEC should ensure that those who are found wanting in that regard, they are prosecuted. Political leaders who really know that they are out to win an election should talk to their supporters that they should not go and perpetrate violence in their names and in their political party's name.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my able discussants, for your dexterity and very skillful at that, and of course your brilliant expression in that regard. Big thanks to our listeners on independent radios. Thumbs up, and of course our viewers on independent television. Bravo. There's so much you can take onto this edition. We'll do this same time next week. Goodbye.